Good morning, people out there. Today's topic, I'm Courtney's dad, Mark Henderson, and it's another podcast. Today's topic is going to be critical race theory. I know that's been going on in this country. A lot of parents don't want that taught in their schools. They don't want things taught about what our past, systemic racism. I know Condoleezza Rice had a controversial comment she said on The View. A lot of people have questions about the subject, about our history of our country. And so that's going to be our discussion today.
That's exciting. Awesome. Yeah, Texas, they have no rules out there. They got a lot going on with the critical race theory, and now they're actually doing something on Roe versus Wade too. So they're going to be going to the Supreme Court at the end of this year. So wow. All right, critical race theory. I'll let you take over.
Well, last year there was a 1619 project from New York talking about our history of Black people in this country, starting from 1619, where we're from this country. It wasn't all bad. It was talking about systemic racism, beginning from slavery and to where we are today. And I think that people feel guilt about something that happened, in the 1800s, whatever. But that's the foundation of our country was based on. I think that Captain Knight was talking about our national anthem. There's a part of that national anthem that they don't talk about how Black people were on the side of the British because they were promised their freedom. So there are so many things about our history they don't tell us about. The Pullman Porter, the Harlem Hellraisers. They were one of the first Black regiments to fight in World War I, and they weren't given the rights as other soldiers. They were just basically being cooks or unloading stuff off of shipments. But they were fighting fighting in this country during World War II, and they weren't given the Purple Hearts or given recognition. Or the same thing about the Tuskegee Airmen. There's so many things about our history. It's not just slavery, but there's so many things about how people have fought for this country. It shouldn't be just Black History Month that tells us this. Their history, and also because race theory is also about how the Irish, how the Italian Americans were mistreated, how the Hispanics, the Mexican American War, how the Native Americans. It's not just us. It's also other races.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to Germany, they have a Day of Atonement where every single day their school teachers from kindergarten to 12th grade talks about the history of how the Jews were put in concentration camps in Auschwitz. And they never say, well, that happened 80 years ago, that wasn't us. They take ownership of it. And they still have the names of the Jewish people on the streets, and they have Auschwitz, and they have all kinds of things that talk about that. They don't go away from. They accept they're wrong. And I think that's what America should do with not just Black people, but the Asians and everything else. So systemic racism is also from medical to financial. There's so many things that we need to fix in this country, and then not just say, well, I'm not white, I didn't own a slave, I didn't do that, but you benefited from some of the things. So that's why I think it's so important that all of us take atonement for the things that we did. Also, they were saying, well, who are Black people own slaves? Well, also there's some some Black people that bought their family members. So there's so many things that we can talk about. Or people talk about the Black Wall Street, what happened at Tulsa, or also what happened in Greenboro, North Carolina, or even today, the city I'm from, Pontiac had a Black mayor, Black police chief, and also there are certain parts that was redlining, that there are certain parts you couldn't get a home, couldn't get a house, and so there are so many things about being a minority in this country that either they don't know or they don't care.
Why do you think they have an issue with acknowledging it? It seems like every time it's brought up, people get tense, people feel like it's a very controversial topic, and it may or may not be. I think that's subjective. But why do you think the United States has so much problems with trying to recognize that this happened, in your opinion? Because of course it could be different things.
No one ever wants to admit the wrong that they've done. Everyone has, could you imagine someone always bringing up your worst day of your life or the things that you've done? I think a lot of it got to be with financial. I think some people think, well, I'm not responsible for something that happened in 1868, or there's so many things. America is so built on racism and equality that they feel that they feel that it'll probably just break down the structure of what we are. I think that's why people are scared of it, whether it's reparations or acknowledgement. I think that some people feel that, oh, these black people are going to want $10 million in reparations. Reparations doesn't just have to be me getting money. It could be low interest loans, or give me 45 years to pay back my student loan, or just forget it altogether. I think people just feel that someone's going to get something for free, and that's not the case. Like I always told you, kids, sometimes I have to work twice as hard to go half as far, and I just want to have the same rights as everyone else has. My father fought for this country. My uncles fought for this country. Wherefore, we talk about the GI Bill. That white men were able to get a GI Bill, a lot of black soldiers couldn't, and they were able to get homes and loans and student loans and things like that. So we can just talk about equality from everything. That's why looking at the 1619 project, research on that should really help a lot of people. You don't want to listen to me, listen to other things, and you don't know the history. There shouldn't be everything about us is not all bad or just slavery. It's more than just slavery. It's those people overcoming those things to be what they are. There are some soldiers that love this. Your grandfather loved this country, fought in Korea. He said he would die for this country, for the opportunities they had. Same thing with us. You go on to Harvard, and Chris will go on to Cincinnati, and Gary go to Michigan, Taylor, Kentucky State, and Victoria. So I can't say America is all bad, but I also know that it could do better. And we all, as people, as a country, can all do better. And I think people that just so want to be stuck and being comfortable. That's just my humble opinion.
Well, I do want to say shout out to the Boston chapter of, the Boston branch of the NAACP. They did the 1619 project last year, and I was a part of it with my sorority, and we were protecting our rights to vote. So I do want to shout them out for the work that they are always doing. And overall, the 1619 project, I have close ties with that organization. So definitely want to shout them out. In graduate school, so I want everyone to know I'm done, got my master's, no more school, thank God. But I went to school for international relations, and I studied American exceptionalism. It was one of my favorite courses, was American foreign policy. And my professor actually was my thesis director. So shout out to my professor as well. We talked about American exceptionalism, and he's Italian. He's born and raised in Italy, and he came over here and studied and became a Harvard professor. But we talked about how America puts our country on a pedestal. We are the beacon on the hill. We are the defenders of democracy, and we'll go to other countries to defend people's social rights and civil rights and justices. But then we can't acknowledge the problems here. And I'm not asking, like you said, we're not asking for people to give up everything. We're just asking to have an equal playing field, and it's called equity. So it's not necessarily we're trying to be equal. Let's have an equity, because you're up here, and you're right, people do benefit from slavery, and they're still benefiting from it because people have inherited businesses that have been in existence back during slavery. People had the funds to be able to start a business. People can get small loans of $1 million from their parents because they have had years and years and generations of wealth, but we're starting now. I mean, I talk to my brother all the time, Chris, and we talk about how we want to start the generational wealth with our generation. So we may not be able to be old money right now, but we hope that in the future, our children and our children's children and on forward will be able to say that they come from old money. But it's very hard. You're right. There's discrimination within housing. I watched a documentary that there was a Black family trying to sell their home, and they kept making the market value below what they thought their home was. So then they took their home pictures down, they took the family pictures out, and then they put up white pictures of people of white descendants and things like that. And then the market value went up. And that's true. And then even right now, we're going through redistricting, especially in Boston. It's a huge issue where, and in Detroit, actually, I read an article a few days ago. It's going on in Detroit where they're trying to redistrict these areas, and it's gonna make it harder for African Americans to run for office because they know that they're not going to win with the predominantly white neighborhood. And it's upsetting because no matter how hard we try to fight to get the same things that our white counterparts get, we have to still jump through the hurdles and these hoops that no one else has to jump through. And it's funny because people say, oh, slavery happened a long time ago. Well, you guys should get over it. But the things that you said were still built in the Constitution back then are still in the Constitution now. And it takes, and all 50 states have to be able to make to agree to amend anything. And can you imagine the red states trying to get involved with the blue states?
Mississippi, Kentucky.
Yeah, and Kentucky would be, Kentucky would be the real problem.
I remember you were saying that when you're in Boston, there was someone you talked about the wealth of a white family compared to a Black family is just so disproportionate. And I think that when your friends saying why you keep on bringing it up, I said, because if this family, I think they say that 55% of white people own a home compared to like 13% of Black people. And having a home is a part of having the American dream that I can able to get a second mortgage and I can be able to get to school. People don't realize how owning a home and things are so important. And I get tired of hearing that what happened a long time ago, but ever since you were kids and your mother were children, we always knew about the Jewish Holocaust. The Diary of Anne Frank for us was required reading, or Schindler's List, or The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. I never tell Jewish Americans to get over the Holocaust, and because get mad about this, because they have infrastructure wealth. And they say never forget, never again. And we also need to have that. I used to get tired of seeing slave movies, 12 Years a Slave and Roots. But for every generation has to understand that, and they want to just get rid of it. But no one ever tells the Jewish Americans the Simon Wiesenthal Museum for Jewish people or whatever things that happened to them, and it was horrible. And also the Germans copied what we did in the South to Jim Crow. They implemented and they used it to make it worse. And also, you talk about a house. I think D.L. Hughley was saying the same thing, that he had to take pictures of his family down to get the value of his house.
That's crazy.
And then if we sell our house, I got to probably take down all the pictures of you guys. So that's just systemic, and people need to understand that it didn't just start today. It started with redlining and other things like that. And you can't talk about that you're ignorant because you know it. And think about it, even though you benefit from it, and if you do nothing, you're just as bad. You gotta do better. And I think that people are scared to do better.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the article that you were alluding to was a Boston Globe article that said that the median net worth of a Black Bostonian is $8. $8. And it was the first article that was sent out about that. It received so many comments and so many questions that literally the next day, they said that was no typo. The median net worth of Black Bostonians really is $8.
Yeah.
That is crazy. And the funny thing is, after that article was printed, and it was printed out back in, was I living here yet? Okay, back in 2017. So I had just moved out here the year before. No one, at least to my knowledge, no one wanted to address the issues right there about how we can create generational wealth or create more wealth within the Black parts of Boston so that African Americans' net worth really isn't $8. I didn't see any I didn't see any studies come out. I didn't see any solutions to that. And it's funny because a lot of Blacks are concentrated in Boston. Like I said, Massachusetts is very segregated. Every town, city has their majority race. So Quincy, where I lived for a good amount of time out here, is predominantly Asian. And then we have Dorchester, Roxbury, Mattapan, predominantly Black. And those are boroughs of Boston. And when Blacks are running for office, and I've worked with plenty of candidates because that's what I do, the Black candidates that are running in Boston, they never talk about the economic gap. Every time I talk to them, I say, what are your core issues that you want to focus on as a platform? And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're not going to address these topics if you get elected. You just want to hone in on 3 topics, because the average American is not going to remember all 10 items that you want to address. They will typically remember 3. And every time it's always education, which is very important. They focus on transportation, and then they'll do like maybe police reform. Like I said, these are all important things, but it's never the economic parts. And as a campaign manager or as a consultant, I can advise them to do these things, but I can't make them do these things. And it's really sad that even Blacks that live in Boston don't even want to figure that out or even fight the system. And I even think, and I may be venturing off a little bit too much, but the Black candidates that I worked with in the state of Massachusetts, they also are scared to talk about critical race theory, but I think it's for a different reason. I think they know that if they bring it up, they won't be able to win, because you can't, even if every Black person in your district voted for you, you still wouldn't win. You need to get those white votes. And I think people are really scared. They don't want to talk about it. They don't bring it up in debates. I work with the NAACP, and when we do our candidate debate forums, they don't want to bring it up. And that's why I refuse to be a moderator, because these are questions that I want to ask. And if I'm not allowed to ask these, and if you don't want to stir the pot or upset someone, then don't ask me to do it, because I won't do it, because this needs to be talked about. And it's really sad, because when I took my American foreign policy class, and obviously Harvard is predominantly white as well, our professor asked if we thought America was exceptional. And he said, let's take a vote. He said, those who think they're not exceptional, raise your hand. And it was so funny, because all the minorities, which were not that many, raised our hands and said that we're not exceptional. And then when he asked if America was exceptional, all the white people raised their hands. And it said, exceptional for who? Because that's the question that you have to ask, because it may be exceptional to white people. I can imagine it would be.
Right.
You can get a loan and have like very low interest.
Yeah.
You won't be discriminated if you go inside of a store and you want to buy something. I've been discriminated in Victoria's Secrets, Henry Bendel, every time. And it's funny, because you work for the company, and they'll ask me, oh, can I help you with something? Or they'll follow me and they'll say, oh, this is $400. Like I didn't read the price tag. And then when I get up there, I showed them the discount card that you worked in, and all of a sudden I get the best customer service at checkout. And that's why I stopped shopping there. People say, oh, I want to go there. No, I won't go. Mm-mm. But yeah, honestly, history repeats itself. And if we never learn from it, we're just going to keep seeing it. I mean, we're about to revisit Roe versus Wade again. And now we're taking it out of classrooms. Honestly, if I could go back in time, I wish we didn't have to learn about like white history, which is American history. So glad I didn't grow up in those times.
Well, the thing about, we're talking about America. America always say that we're the greatest country on earth, and we're the beacon of freedom. And I think America needs to stop doing that. It's not for everyone. What's going on the border, and not one Haitian to come to this country. Or what Trump said, why can't we get more people from Switzerland to come here, Australia? So it's just blatant out there. And what's education, what makes critical race theory so important is because in this country, I think you probably read the article in Tennessee, there is the school to prison pipeline. And this was started after Reconstruction, how they had the free slave, the plantation owners had to get their money back. So they had, they used the police, slave patrol to get people to work on the plantations for just the most minute crime. jaywalking, whatever.
Mhm.
And I mean, you gave me a book last year after the pandemic about how they just, not the police just came up with a system to have you work on the plantations for free. And that's
Yep.
been on the school
Oh,
prison
yeah.
pipeline. That's why it's so important that we know this is why it's happened, or why they have all kind of researchers on how Black people get arrested 4 times more than a white person do and get charged
Mhm.
harsher sentences. This
Mhm.
all starts from a Reconstruction in the South, and it just,
Yep.
and so people have to understand where it starts. If you want to start police reform, you have these prisons for profit.
Mm.
Everything affects the Black and the brown people, and we have to get past this. And this is why it's so important, because if you deconstruct America, what do they really have? We have more people in prison than the world combined.
Mhm.
So we have to understand what caused it so you can stop
Mhm.
it
Absolutely.
if they want.
Yeah, but I don't think they would. Yeah, the book that you're talking about is Slavery by Another Name,
Mhm.
by Douglas, and it's a. I won't say it's a good book because I don't like what obviously it talks about, but it is a very informative book and it teaches you about the laws. Like they created vagrancy laws. So if you
Mhm.
don't have an address, you could be arrested, but for not having an address. So if you're homeless, it was a crime to be homeless.
Mhm.
And yeah, and then they would put them in prisons and they would work
Yeah.
little to nothing, literally for free. And that was them paying off their debt as if being in prison wasn't paying their debt.
Mhm.
And even now, there's still some issues with that currently about the wages that they're paid for
Mhm.
prison workers and how they clean the side of the highways and things like that. And I think there's a few groups out there that are trying to fight that, to say that you can't exploit them for work.
Mhm.
It's really crazy. And another good book is The New Jim Crow
Yes.
by Michelle Alexander.
Mhm.
And that also talks, and it actually starts back, I think, during the Nixon Reagan era, and then it goes on up to, like, I think at the time Obama was still president, so I think it goes up to his presidency. But it talks about the war on drugs and how it was really an attack on African Americans in their community, and they were the ones that put the drugs in their community, and they worked with African Americans in the community to help them move the drugs in their
Mhm.
community. And there's a show on in Snowfall. I mean, I like the show, but it does have some allusions to facts in that as well. I think it's important. I don't think it needs to be removed out of the classroom. I mean, think about African Americans. We had to sit in classrooms and hear about all the white presidents and read about Susan B. Anthony and insert whatever white hero, we talked about. Um, it's crazy. I actually do have a question, because when I was thinking about all the things that you said, it made me think about affirmative action, because affirmative action was brought up to kind of alleviate some of the issues that African Americans faced after post-slavery. Do you know much about affirmative action and how they thought it would help, and maybe some ways that it hurt African Americans?
Well, I think that it it helped it helped more Black women than Black men.
Mm.
I believe that. I think that the thing about it is when it goes to a qualified person, whether, and I think that white people think that the only reason that you got this job or you got this scholarship is because of the color of your skin. This is no, we're trying to make this right of the things of the wrong past. And I think that it did help, but also hurt, because it makes you feel that the only reason that you got this 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 benefit is because of color of skin, but you really got it because you work hard. And some people going to take it and say, well, I didn't get this scholarship, gave it to this Asian or this Black person because of affirmative action, where it was really you were qualified.
Mhm.
And people realize that the GI Bill
Mhm.
is also a part of affirmative action, because if you are a veteran, you get to go to school, not for free, you earned it. You get to go to school, you get loans, and also you can also send your kids to school in your GI Bill. Also, if you're a minority and also you are part of the military, you get both benefits. There was a story about a woman at University of Michigan. She was that was one of the first cases of affirmative action. She was able to go to University of Michigan for free because number one, I think she went on her GI Bill from the military, but also she was also military police or some kind of military lawyer. But no, for her to get the bar in Michigan, she had to go to University of Michigan. So she
Oh,
was
yeah, I
able to,
remember. Yeah.
yeah, she was able to go there for free because number one, affirmative action, and also if she used her GI Bill. But some people say, well, that's not fair. I says, no, she served the country
She did.
and she used her black card. So, and also a lot of white people that beat the system also. So I never understood this, that, you give corporations welfare, but you get mad at a person that's using the benefits to help. I'm not mad at some women getting food stamps. I'm more mad at the corporate America that gets all kind of tax breaks, PP loans that don't even use it.
Mhm.
But yet, so there's so many things that I get upset about. I'm not gonna get mad. I mean, if you need assistance, we all got to help each other. This is nice America.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna get mad at you for that, and not get mad at people at the very
Mhm. I
top.
also think that's a strategy to pit blacks and poor blacks against each
Yeah.
other. That's a strategy that they use,
Mhm.
because I've seen a lot of poor whites
Mhm.
vote outside of their best interest.
Yes.
They could actually get more if they sided with African Americans or any other minorities, not just us. But yeah, it's crazy. I saw in Tennessee, and of course it would be Tennessee. I had seen somebody with like practically no teeth in his mouth, and he had his pickup truck with a huge Trump sign, flag on the back, beat up truck, rusted and everything. And I said, "What would Trump do for you?"
Yeah. Yeah.
We on the same boat, except for I got more teeth than you, but it was just,
Mhm.
it's just so funny. I talk about this all the time. I know I alluded to it in another podcast, but I sometimes I think we're just not educated enough to vote for our best interest. We vote by party. And I think if we just remove party altogether and listen to what these politicians or candidates are trying to, advocate for, then we should listen to that. And I also think that race should just be removed off applications, job applications, whatever. Um, strictly go off that. I think we're the only country, and I may be wrong, so I don't want to say I'm 100% for sure on this, but I think we're the only country that asks for race and ethnicity on applications. I don't know why we have that, but I know that we are the only one. And other countries look at that and they're like, we don't have that over there. Like, yeah, well, this is America.
Also, what I hate about politics is that a lot of times your candidate is sponsored by corporate America,
Mhm.
pharmaceutical companies. They
Mhm.
get behind it. The war we have in Afghanistan is basically contracts for weapons and things like that. So
Mhm.
that's where America is not exceptional. Why do you make a profit off someone's suffering? And I think that that's why a lot of some. I know we're going to talk about voting in the next podcast. Is that a lot of times people feel that I'm voting for the lesser of two evils, or you know, okay, this politician is sponsored by the NRA, Pfizer, whatever. So a lot of times we just have, I think as Americans, we have to go for the grassroots candidate and a lot of
Absolutely.
things like that. And I think that, but then sometimes they don't have a chance to win, or they have a low budget. In this country, you got to have you work in campaign finance.
Mhm.
You got to have to run for president. You got to have
Million.
you're making a deal with the devil. That okay, I can't speak as NRA because they're one of my biggest supporters, or I
Mhm.
can't speak against Pfizer or Ohio Health because they're the ones that bankroll my candidacy. So you're watching both. You're trying to not offend. You're trying to work. Do you work for the people? Or do you work for corporate America? You're a donor. I think that's where politics.
Mhm.
I feel so right about being an educated voter. Democracy works anywhere if you understand.
Yep.
Like right now, we're having local elections right now on Tuesday,
Yep.
and I'm looking at people who are running for the school board,
Mhm.
or it's your small local elections that are just as important, because I deal with these people every day, whether it's the sheriff or
Mhm.
school boards or things like that. That's so important, and I think that's why it's so important to really educate yourself. Don't look at your smartphone just for this dumb stuff.
Mhm.
really investigate of who you want to vote for. And I know it's so hard to vote for less, but also be involved. I don't think I mean I don't need white people's, their acceptance, as we have to build our own business from within.
Yeah.
Teach our children. I was with your mother with Black History Month for all the years she did it at Southwest City Schools. Uh, really understand that. Also, get a chance to the Chris Webber's Hall of Fame speech.
I did watch it.
It's
Mhm.
very that's all that's truly Detroit right there. So
Yeah.
and so he was talking, and I had teachers like that, but in the first podcast he told us about
Mhm.
the Pullman Porters, to get airmen. It's so important that we pass this history to each other, so we don't have to depend on school boards or and also talking about your mother's grandmother, Miss Ruby Pickford, and what happened to her in the South.
Mhm.
We can't we got to protect our Black women. We can't call them these and O's. We had to protect them. I don't relationship stuff. I don't really give a rat's ass about,
Mhm.
but protect our women as men.
Mhm.
We get all the love game and all that other stuff. I don't care about that. Monkey simp, all this other shit. Protect our women as Black men,
Mhm.
and that's so important. You deal with who you deal with, but for the most part, if I see someone being disrespected, even though they may not be my wife or my daughter, I'm
Mhm.
gonna stand up. People think I'm quiet and weak, but I'm going to stand up.
Mhm.
I may not agree with your lifestyle, the things you do, but you're still, you know, my Black sister. When I was dating your mother, I told the same thing. I said, I told my mother, even if she doesn't marry me, I hope that she makes someone a
Mhm.
good wife and mother, because I respect her as my Black queen, even if I'm not married to her. And that's what we should get back to. We've been integrated into a dysfunctional house, all of us. We used to be different from this. We're better than this.
Mhm.
We're not perfect, but
Yeah.
I know I'm better than that.
Yeah. Um, I was just thinking, listening to all of that, um, and kind of to circle back to something that you said about the campaign finance laws and things like that. I know there's an organization that is trying to end all of that, like Citizens United and that landmark case and things like that, to cap how much a campaign can raise and limit who can give to political campaigns. I know I did a group project also at Harvard with my political corruption course where we kind of talked about that. And it's very sickening because the grassroots people are the people that should run. And all my campaigns that I've been on for like maybe except for two have all been grassroots. It's on the ground, doing the actual work, educating the voters and things like that. And I think that's so important. Then also something else that you said that made me think is that back then the education system before um,
Yeah.
the Brown case, um, it was that separate but equal type of thing. I'm starting to think now we were so, and again, we learn with time. I think we always have hindsight 2020, but it makes me think that because we integrated the school system, did we hurt ourselves with understanding our history? Because I think that if we stayed segregated, and I don't agree with being segregated, I think we should all integrate. But and I also believe in fair funding for schools because the Black schools weren't being funded. I think that was another issue that they were trying to fight. But now that we're in these white schools, we're learning about white history, but we're not learning about our history, which goes back to you need to educate your kids at home. Yes, they have to go to school. It's the law. They have to go to school. But when they come home, you need to teach them how to be critical thinkers, and you need to teach them about our history or whatever race history, because they're not going to talk about bombing, here, like we talk about Hiroshima, but we're not going to talk about the real things that happened behind that. So, or the concentration camps of the Japanese people and things
Yeah.
like that. So I think every person should teach their children about race and other people's race history as well. But I think, what do you think about integrating the school systems back then? Did we hurt ourselves with that?
I think Martin Luther King very go back to some of his speeches or interviews. He did say that he integrated us into a dysfunctional home.
Mm,
I think that that's something they don't ever talk about. That we should probably spend more money on military than we do educating all people. I
mhm,
think John Kennedy's brother, Robert Kennedy, was going to start the poor people's campaign. He was shot, killed. I think that I think we should learn everyone's history and be fair about it. Because even I know after the bombing of Pearl Harbor that America put a lot of Asian Americans that were born here in concentration camps, and they were born here. They got money for that. They got their ancestors got that money too. So we can also talk about what's happened with the Native American people, the indigenous people of this country. How they put smallpox in their bags and to kill them. And they tried to cut their hair and make them worship a white Jesus. And every minority in this country has been done wrong. I just don't, and I'm not trying to make anyone feel bad because people weren't born in 1619, but if you know that you benefit from it, do better. And it's not just us to suffer, but I hate that they just push us aside. Because why did Asian people get a crime bill, a hate bill, and we can't get nothing passed for us, and we've been here long, since 1619. And that's why Chris is we're so angry about it. Why do other people, whether it's the LGBT community or whether that's the Asians, why do they get rights where we don't? We haven't gotten none since 1964 Civil Rights Voting Bill, 1964. You got it from actually here somewhere, but you can't get the George Floyd bill passed. So do we integrate? I know white culture. I was tell you guys, I have a white name. I worship a white Jesus. I shop at Walmart and Amazon just like any other white person. So and I've only been in Africa once. So so don't. I'm a Black American. So give me the same. Give me the same rights as everybody else.
This is something, and it may be controversial, so I do want to apologize to anyone who's listening to this and may be offended. That is not my intention. Like I said, I always move in love and light. But one problem that I really, really have, and Dad, like when I tell you it really bothers me to the point where I kind of want to fight. When I look at how other minorities treat African Americans, it is sickening and disgusting. And yet these minorities that come over, these immigrants that come over to the United States, they benefit from the protests, the killings, the fights, the legislation that we have fought so hard for, the civil rights movement, the John Lewis and Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Marcus Garvey, and I can go on and on and on. All of these African Americans lost their lives. They're martyrs. They fought, they went against the grain, they went against the status quo, they challenged everyone in the political arena and anyone who held power to fight for minorities to have a seat at the table. So while African Americans, one, built this country for free, we haven't gotten reparations. We don't get anything from it. We're still being discriminated against, and then we're not even the model minority in our own country that we built. We were forced over here. We were enslaved, and then we were beaten, and yet people still don't want to consider slavery a genocide. They won't. But Armenia just got recognized as a genocide. But we are still up for debate that the transatlantic trade, the transatlantic slave trade still is not considered a genocide. And I took a class at Harvard, human rights class, and we had to argue our point on, we had to split the class. It was a genocide. It wasn't a genocide. I was on the genocide side. And at the end of our debate, our professor said it's not considered a genocide today. But I have a problem when other minorities come to this country and then they have the audacity, and I will say that again, the audacity to disrespect African Americans when it was our people and our struggle that got minorities on their to where they are now. And then yet minorities don't have to pay taxes for 7 years. They get to stack their money up and live well, send money back to their families, fine, whatever. I understand you have to do what you have to do for your family, because I would do the same for mine, but don't disrespect African Americans. And I think that removing critical race theory from classes emboldens and empowers other minorities to keep disrespecting us, even though they would not be here without us. So I know I went on a tangent. I'm so passionate about it. So like every time, and Asians are very racist in Boston. They're extremely racist, but they own all the hair supply stores. They own all the the nail, beauty. They're in the beauty industry, and they capitalize off of Black women. And I refuse to shop there. I always get followed there. I always get told that I need to have my hands visible, and I never go back. And I was so happy when I was living in Nashville. There was a Black woman that opened up the Black beauty store, and I was so proud of her, because she had a line that wrapped around the building to shop inside her store. And I said, that's what we need, because I will only shop Black owned. For Christmas, y'all all getting Black owned gift. Like,
that's fine.
I'm not shopping anywhere other than Black this Christmas. So my family, y'all, this is y'all warning. Y'all better send me your Christmas list, but it better be from a Black company. But yeah, I went to a sushi place with my friend last year, and I only ordered one thing of sushi, and then her and her husband ordered like the buffet style. But when the bill came, she put all of our bills together, because she said she didn't want to separate it. That's whatever. It's not easy. I mean, it's not hard. I used to serve. It's easy to split a check, and especially if it's only 3 people, and it's really only 2 bills, because they're obviously married, so they're together. And when she brought back the receipt, my friend said, "Oh, I'll leave you. I'll cash app you and just pay with your card, and I'll leave the cash tip for her." So when I filled out the receipt and I signed it and I marked out the tip part, because we were leaving cash, she comes back to me. Mind you, she comes back to me and tells me that I didn't give her enough. One tip is optional.
Yeah.
I don't have to pay, I don't have to tip, but I do tip, because I know how it is to serve. I've been a server, I've been a bartender for many years, and I understand that the companies, they don't pay you what you should really get paid, but it's not my responsibility to pay you what your employer should pay you. Tip is optional, and your service wasn't even that great. So I also tip on the level of service that I've received. So when she looked at me, I really got upset. I said, first of all, you were getting a cash tip, and when we were ready to leave, it was going to be on the table when you left. And I felt like she would have never done that if I was a white woman.
That's true. That's so true. Black people need to stop being superheroes with everybody else. The same-sex marriage was based on the loving case of an interracial couple in Virginia, I believe, and they moved to other. And basically, every law change is basically based on what we fought for. So they say, well, it's unconstitutional. People of different cultures can get married, and then also that's the way for same-sex marriage. The women's movement, feminist movement in the 1970s was based on the marches of us. Whether it's, so we need to be, like you said, we need to focus on our best interest. I am a Black person first, then I'm an American. I know people won't feel that controversial. Like you said, I do know that I'm guilty of certain things, because number one, I have J.P. Morgan Chase, Bank One. I understand that my mortgage company is Wells Fargo, Mr. Cooper, that finance slaves, and I understand it. But as Black people, we have to do better with our money. The best way to hurt someone is to hurt someone financially. Black people boycotted Hollywood, because I think Magic Johnson said his first business, Magic Johnson Theaters, the first millions he made after basketball was his theaters. He said Black people go to movies a lot too. And they serve us some grape Kool-Aid and some popcorn. And so after Black people start boycotting, came Black Panther, and then the one movie about the Black scientist, and Get Out and things like that. We need to use our financial power. Even racist white people say the best way to hurt someone is to hurt them is the pocket, because those that protest, hey, I love you. I've been in, I own a home. I understand the sacrifices that some people had crosses burned in their yard, red line, in order for me and mother to get our Dominion home.
Mhm.
I appreciate the sacrifices that you did, but we have to change. We got to hit people in the pocket. We have to hit people in the pocket.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of protest politics. Never really was. I've protested before, but I took a protest class at Fisk. Um, it did do something. I think back in the day, protesting was a big thing, especially when they were trying to fight um wars, like like the hippie movement. They were like, oh, peace, not war, and things like that. So I do think that that was really big. And I know a lot of protest songs came out during, that era. I know like Marvin Gaye has a lot of protest songs and things like that. And there's other artists too that I probably can't think of, but I have a problem with the Black Lives Matter movement because what are we doing outside of protesting? I always thought power and change came from getting people elected, building up our Black economy. So recreating a Tulsa and, and our other Black Wall Streets that we had. Like you said, Pontiac had a lot of wealth back then. We need to do that because I think that being independent of the system, they can't benefit, they can't exploit, because if we don't depend on it, you can't use it as leverage against us. But our people, we're the highest consumers in this country, and yet we can't figure it out. Why can't we figure out? And it frustrates me because I have all these great ideas, and I know I'm not the only one with these ideas. I know I'm not going to say I'm the all-knowing person, because I could be wrong on some things, but how can we uplift and mobilize the Black people, because we have the education. I know we are lacking in STEM. We're always looking for more Black people to be in STEM, and STEM is very hard. That's not for me. I don't do science or math, but there are people out there that there are Black children out there now that may be interested in STEM, but we don't expose them to that. But I feel like we get our Black lawyers, which we already have. We get our Black police officers, though they're still subjected to a few of the systems, the structural things. But yeah, just build up our own neighborhoods and go back to the way it was. But make it better. I'm not saying go back to being completely segregated and we don't interact with anyone at all, but like, let's be dependent of the system, because it's the system that's keeping us down. And it's just so frustrating. And I think that, like you said, we should focus on ourselves. I really don't like the term people of color, because then we all mix each other in, and yet we're the only race that was dehumanized.
Yes.
We were dehumanized. We weren't even looked at as humans. We were treated as second-class citizens. So we had dogs put on us. We had fire hose put on us. We've been beaten with billy sticks and, insert anything, lynched, still lynched to this day. And people say it's a suicide. I don't believe that. But we're still being dehumanized, but yet we want so bad to be associated with the Latinos or the Latinx, to be politically correct, or the Asian Americans. We want so bad to be connected to another group, but we've done it before without them. In a respectful way, we don't need them because we've done so much on our own. That's just my thoughts.
You're right, because I know Dave Chappelle's catching hell about what he's talking about transgender, but what has gay people not on our side for anything? You don't. He says a joke about that segment about population, but you had no problem with calling someone the N word, or when a rapper is calling a Black woman a B or O, or a 187 a Black man, but you don't never have you don't. Isn't that wrong too? So you're not people only go for their best interest, and we're not in their best interest, because we have to be our own self-best interest. Stop fighting, because you feel that, oh, I don't have swag, or I'm lame, or why is it that a rapper gets more respect than a Black man going to school? Because he had to work twice as hard to go half as far. Now, all of us can't rap and play football or basketball. You put them on a pedestal. It's called the lost value system. You put them on there and not us. and you know, and we need to stop that infighting, and we just really stop all the fighting, and it's okay. You know, we focus on the wrong thing.
Yeah.
I don't care about this segment. I got to worry about being Black first.
Mhm.
Trump said, you know, America first. And we got to be Black people first.
Mhm.
I'm Black first. I vote Black.
Mhm.
I don't vote Republican, Democrat. I vote Black. And if you know, if you don't have a Black agenda, you can vote.
Yep. Well, I also learned that all skin folk ain't kinfolk. So there are a few Black politicians that are coons. So so then I don't always vote Black, but if I know that they're just, you know, pandering for the votes. There's one more thing that I want to talk about, and of course you can always add what you want, is the misappropriation of culture. So culture appropriation. So I need to buy this book. It's just so expensive, but I'm gonna save up my pennies and get it. It's called Soul Thieves.
Oh yeah.
I love it. So it's like an anthology of every essay or article written on people that use our culture and are the most imitated groups of people in the world. So not just the United States, in the world, we are imitated a lot, and people take our culture. So I know, and it really bothers me because I love braids, but I don't wear them to work sometimes, or I'll wait until I get a job and then I'll get my protective hairstyle. But if I know I'm going to be interviewing like how I am now, I won't get braids, or I won't get whatever protective style for my hair. But then I go in the grocery stores and I'm in the line getting ready to check out. I see Vogue, Elle magazine with white women with cornrows, or Bo Derek braids when they're really Fulani braids because they're from the Fulani tribe. And now it's fashionable for them to wear it. Or I've seen people wear do-rags and be, you know, profiled. But then I saw I forgot what designer it was, but it was a white designer, had them wearing do-rags. And I said, wow, it's only fashionable when a white person wears it. So and then of course, we know about the music industry, a lot of people stole from Black artists like Elvis and other artists as well. They still, and then they make it, you know, their own. They throw, as Charlamagne likes to say, they throw mayonnaise on it.
Oh yeah, they do.
And make it their own. I think that also plays a role in critical race theory as well, because it doesn't talk about how we are criticized for things, but then it's fashionable or chic when another race, you know, does it. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, there are a lot of, you know, they call them culture vultures. I mean, you know, I think, I don't know if people talk about Justin Timberlake, but he was also produced by Timberland. I think Backstreet and those guys were produced by Black producers and things like that. I think Full Force, R&B group from the 80s and 90s, produced a lot of the white boy bands in the 80s and 90s. Yeah, you know, I don't think we can do nothing about it, but I think we need to just point it out to people that, you know, I say, you know, Timberland, I think one of my favorite albums he had was Future Sex Love Sounds. And,
oh yeah, what Sierra?
Yeah, and you know, all those songs on there sound like Prince and Michael Jackson. I think he even did a before Michael Jackson passed away. He did a little song for them. As long as you acknowledge who it comes from, and I think that's why it's so important that, you know, to say that this album was inspired by Prince and Michael Jackson, or a lot of boy bands are based on the Temptations and Four Tops and things like that. They, you know, as long as, you know, it's a capitalist system, and people, I guess the best, what is to say, the best flattery is invitation.
Oh yeah, I love that quote.
So as long as you acknowledge where it comes from, you know, I like the fact that it was, you know, I mean, I agree with it, but I think that he acknowledged that Timbaland was his producer, and guys like Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis and Kenny Babyface and things like that. As long as you acknowledge where it came from,
give credit.
yeah. And I think Pink, the singer, the white singer Pink, she's produced by L.A. Reid, and
Yeah, yeah.
so as long as you know where it comes from and you acknowledge it, like I said, capital system, so people can spend their money in streaming or whatever they want to do. So I do get angry, but as long as you point it out, and I think we're doing more of that now. I think in some cases, people are suing because you can't wear your hair a certain way. Black people, that's kind of a lot of, yeah, they're suing for that in their jobs, so we can do something about, but I will. There is double standard because I see young white boys wearing their pants off their ass. So I said, well, you would profile me all day long. But as long as you acknowledge it and call it out with these smartphones and everything, you can't deny it. What happened in Central Park with that guy bird watching? I tell the cops that you're a black man and you're harassing me. They know. They know. Because that's why you did it. And you said the African, and we've been, whether it's Emmett Tibbs or anything, we've been lied on. And I think what's scaring people now is that it is on your phone, whether it's Karen's or the Beckys, they see it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in certain states they are now making it a law that if you are using their race as an intent to get what you want out of that, then you can be arrested. And I think that should be universal. I think, or not universal, but across all states, because they're weaponizing our skin color, and they know that, and they act on it. Not to put anyone's business out, but I have a friend that's going through some issues right now, and I was with her because there's a language barrier. She's not from here, and I went to go just be a supportive friend with her to the police station because she's going through some legal issues. And we talked to the sergeant of the police station. I'll leave the city out of it because I don't want anyone to get in trouble. But he came out, and I was trying to explain to him the frustration that she felt because she called the police for help, and they were being discriminated. She was being discriminated because they thought it was the white person that called. And I get it. When police officers get the call, they don't know who is who. When they get there, they're trying to assess everything. They're trying to figure it out. But she was so frustrated. She couldn't get the words out to, express her frustration. So I understood what she was saying. So I was talking to the sergeant, and he was nice, he was professional, but I think he was out of touch with reality. And I think sometimes police officers need to take critical race theory courses because his responses weren't to my satisfaction.
Right.
Because I'm talking to him, and I said, no, you need to understand that she called you guys for help. And I said, and you left her in a threatening situation and you did not assist her. I said, so you can understand how she's frustrated. And I wasn't being argumentative with him. I was being very, professional. And like I said, it was a professional interaction. I won't say that he did anything wrong, but he said, well, we get a lot of calls for nonsense things. And, so we don't always know how to assess everything. So I understand that she feels this way, but, we get a lot of calls. And now because of all the false calls about, this black guy's threatening me. Now they take everything. Now they have to take everything as, okay, this might not be a threat. This might not be a threat. And now it hurts people who really do need help, that really do need their assistance, and they really need to be protected and served. And I said, well, honestly, Sergeant, I don't think you protected or served anybody when the call was made. And I said, I think it should be addressed. So, and he said he got my contact information so that I could be able to, help her understand, because, the legal system's different in different countries. So I'm trying to explain that to her. But you have to hold them accountable to you. Not only do you have to hold, white people that use your skin color as a weapon, you also have to hold those police officers and law enforcement accountable for also knowing that, like, they know that. And he clearly alluded to it in that conversation. So he got my contact information. He's going to give me an update on, what goes on with that. And I said, no, absolutely. And I said, if you don't call me, I'll call you. So I don't play that at all. I tell people I have a low tolerance for disrespect. I don't take it. And like you said, if I see it happening to people, I step up and I get involved. There was somebody on the train a few years ago. She was speaking in her language. I think it might have been Arabic, and somebody yelled at her and told her to speak English. Mine, she wasn't talking to him. She was on the phone. So then he kept harassing her. So I got up. Mine, I shouldn't have because I'm like all of 5'2". And at the time I was like only 125 pounds. So I told him, I said, is it bothering you that she's speaking another language? Like she's not talking to you. Like her conversation is not interrupting what you're doing. I said, go back to your end of the cart and mind your business and get off when you need to get off. And like he left and a few people clapped for me on the train, but I wasn't looking for, applause or whatever. But I wish that now people, like how I stood up for an Arabic woman, I hope that other minorities stick up when Blacks are being mistreated. And I know a few people do, but I also want them to do it the way we want it done. You can't come in and tell us how you want to help. Granted, you can help the way you feel, but you need to talk to us first. And it was funny because I was in an NAACP meeting and we invited some students in to present something to us. And they wanted to talk about racial profiling and they wanted to work with other Black organizations that are doing the same work. So we were asking questions. And I felt like we weren't asking the right questions to them because we were trying to get an understanding. They were a little all over the place, but they're kids, so I understand. But when I said, so then I started talking and I asked, what research have you done on things like this? I said, because you're talking as if this is a new concept of racial profiling when this has been a decades long thing. You also have to understand that police officers used to be slave catchers. Mm-hmm. So we have to remember that they went from slave catchers and then somehow it transformed into to law enforcement. Did you guys know that? No, they didn't. And nobody Black is sitting on this committee that they're doing this research. So nobody Black is on here. So that was a little alarming to me at first. But then again, I don't know if Black people just didn't want to be involved because of whatever reason. So, and then they said, oh, I don't know about that. And I said, well, do you know about some of the laws that are in place that are really targeted towards Black, like vagrancy laws and other things that, no, I don't know that. I said, I think you guys need to go back. I said, I think you need to do some historical context in your research so that you understand where this all stems from. Because if you don't know where you're beginning, you won't know where you're going to end. And I think, like I said, to keep this on subject, critical race theory is very much important because we can't make structural changes. We can't be a better country. We can't continue to be exceptional, if that's what we want to say we are, until we acknowledge every single issue that we have and right those wrongs, right them. And I tell people it's okay to be wrong. We've all been wrong in our lives. And it's okay to say sorry. I think that's what makes you a great leader. That's what makes you a great person, is if you can acknowledge the wrongdoings. And yes, we weren't alive to experience it. And no, we weren't the ones that may have done it. But we know that this country is still thriving off of it centuries later. So that's what I have to say on that. I know we'll probably get some angry comments in the section about this.
Well, you didn't mean
yeah.
I think people only look through the world through their own prism, and that's why it's so important with critical race theory that you got to look at something outside of yourself if you're willing to do that. Mm-hmm. I know that there are things, I'm not the same person I was when I was 25, and now that I'm 53. If you don't accept change or you don't improve, then what's the point of living if you're the same person at 25 or 30 or whatever? We all have to do changes. We all have stereotypes of people, but we need to go out there and really have these hard conversations. And I don't think people are really scared of those conversations. And I, I'm gonna go a little bit, when you know about critical race theory, you want to really hear the ugly truth. Mm-hmm. I like what, a lot of people like Kwame Brown, the former player, and people don't really understand what putting a Black man in a dress means. It was called buck breaking, when you had a slave that went against defiance. They beat him, they sodomized him, and they made him wear a dress in front of all of the other slaves to make them fall in line. So when you are a strong Black man and they make you to this day and age and put you means. And if you understand critical race theory, you will understand that was a form of buck breaking. So how, I mean, I understand that Tyler Perry, Medea, whatever. I know people talk about Robin Williams dressing up as Miss Doubtfire, but it's different. And if there's an agenda, Dave Chappelle said, I ain't gonna wear a dress. I know Eddie Murphy plays all different characters and everything else is, but as a Black man, he says, no, I can't show this to my son. And this is why it's so important. And that's why he's so angry at men doing this. There's no reason for you to do this. There's an agenda because, you don't put Tom Brady in a dress, you don't put Aaron Rodgers in a dress, but you make every other person does. You don't make, Tom Hanks, well, Tom Hanks did wear a dress.
Yeah,
he was in bosom buddies in the 1980s, but you ain't gonna put him in no dress. Huh?
No.
So we have to change, understand where it comes from.
Yeah. History repeats itself, and we clearly aren't learning from it. I forgot all about buck breaking. I remember that, and I have a lot of Black male friends that I talk to, and they say it's hard, and I can't relate because I've never been a Black man, and I can only imagine how hard society is on Black men. And I just want to say that I love my Black men, and I see you, I appreciate you, because I think Black men need to hear that. They don't hear it enough at all.
No, we don't. It all just called the minstrel show when they make you look, rapper, gold teeth, whatever. And I was telling y'all before, about Adele. They don't make Adele sing about her walk, or they don't make Eric, what other, like other white singers do what Carly B and them are doing, over sexualizing Black women. They don't, Adele don't do it, Kelly Clarkson don't do it, or they don't do it, but it's just us. And they, and we have to stop that. I mean, it is your money, you can do what you want to do, but we don't have to buy it.
Yeah.
It's really a shame that Megan Thee Stallion has a sauce called hottie sauce. But why is that got to be our strong Black woman with that on chicken? It stereotypes us, and there's images.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Mom said the sauce was good though.
What you say?
I said Mom said the sauce was good though.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I don't eat up Popeyes, but if I decide to have a hankering for it, I'll put it on some shrimp. But yeah, no, I agree.
But also she's also doing cover girl makeup, so I guess it's okay to be a part and make money.
It is. It's really sad. And again, women can do whatever they feel empowers them. I'm not here to say whatever about what women should do, especially because I'm not a feminist. I won't say that, but I empower other women to do what they feel they want to do. But it's just sometimes sad because I've always been the lame girl in high school. No one really wanted to date me. I only had like one boyfriend in high school, and he cheated on me, so I don't even count that relationship. But I feel like women that really work hard, they don't want us. We don't get sauces for Popeyes or McDonald's. I don't get like thousands of likes on Instagram. I get like I think top I may have gotten was like 189 likes, and I think that was a long time ago. It's really sad. I think women like myself, we don't get enough credit for the work that we do. But again, I don't do it for credit. I do it because I believe in leaving Earth better than the way I found it. So that's what makes me do what I do. And I know that life is hard, and sometimes pulling ourselves up by the bootstrap, it's a little difficult. So I try to play my part in making that easier. But yeah.
I just like to say, for my part in closing, like I did in the first podcast, eat the meat, spell the bone, and it wasn't meant to hurt anybody or whatever, but that's how how I feel, and old school or not. So absolutely. I may not always agree with you, your political statements, But unlike other people,
Mhm.
I'm not going to lynch your son. I'm not going to burn down your synagogue or your place of worship.
Mhm.
You know, my love for you as a human being is better than whatever
Mhm.
stereotype I think. You're a human being. You're made in God's image, or whatever
Absolutely.
God you serve.
Yeah.
So you have a right to exist. I
Mhm.
have a right to exist,
Yep.
and I'm going to listen.
Mhm.
But I don't have to be Jewish to know what Hitler did was wrong,
Yeah.
and you don't have to be Black to know that Jim Crow was wrong. You know right from wrong.
Yeah.
You know, paying a woman less than what a man doing the same job is wrong.
Mhm.
You don't need. This should be human common sense.
Mhm.
I want us to have let's be human first,
Yes.
and then we'll work on this critical race theory. Lovely people as human beings, individuals. That's all Black people want. All we just want to be treated fairly. If I know the Constitution wasn't written for us, but
Mhm.
there are amendments for us.
Yep.
And if one person is not getting the right of every citizen, whether it's the Black soldiers, the white soldiers, the Italians, if if justice is not for one group of people, then the Constitution's a lie.
Mm.
It is, because America has to protect all of its citizens,
Yep.
even the ones that it fears.
Mhm.
And that's what my father fought for.
Yep.
That's what the Tuskegee Airmen fought for. They fought for the right to be fair and for their children not to go through what they've gone through. I want fairness.
Absolutely.
I have a right to exist. Whether I'm transgender, whether I'm gay, whether I'm Black, whether I'm Asian, I have the right to exist on this earth. And if you don't accept that, you're a part of the problem.
Mm. Well, I'm gonna leave that at that. I can't even top that. We're
Okay.
leaving it at that.
God bless.
Yeah. See you next time.